I just fell into photography as by chance. So I loved it, and I did my own thing. Pictures again here in Bath, where I was born, and I just got the opportunity after a while to do freelance work with the Bath Evening Chronicle, as it was then, published daily, black and white, full scap. It was so I'd be off doing pictures of anything from cross-eyed babies to darts events or whatever was going, the local news. But it was quite fun to do. Having worked in Bristol with the Bristol Evening Post in the dark rooms, I used to pass on the bus from Bath to Bristol, and I'd see Totterdown on my left-hand side there, and I was fascinated by this outcrop of buildings. It looked quite unique. Climbed up the steep hills, and there's these children. They're everywhere, playing as it used to be. I mean, this was 1972. The girl with the pram was just standing there. I just took a picture without probably. But these days you wouldn't see it, and you'd probably think twice about doing it because you could get yourself into trouble. Sadly, it's. But that's it was really just a quick record of somewhere, well, not realising it was going to disappear. Although at that time, as other photographs of mine show, the place was under being knocked down and replaced with modern buildings and so on. Obviously, Billy Fury, seeing him, that was quite an exciting thing to do. Again, it was just as the pictures show, it just at that time. Billy in his tight leather pants, and I just loved the audience, which I'm glad that's going together with Billy. It's just the way people looked, and it's just, again, it's from another time. It's 1972 still, but you wouldn't get that again now. Dali, first of all, I always was fascinated with his work. That's when I was, as I said, I was doing painting, and surrealism was my thing. So I'd gone over to Spain. I knew that he was opening the museum in his hometown of Figueres. I was wise enough to take the book that I still have on the shelf. I took that with me along with a portfolio of my work to see, if he was going to be up for letting me take photographs. Dali wanted to see my work, so I opened it out, a little portfolio of various pictures of this and that, and he was satisfied with that. He said, very good, very good. I showed him the book of his work, and he kindly signed it and did a little sketch for me in there. He wouldn't let me take any photographs that day, and then back in Bath, I used to phone him up, and he'd answer the phone. It was quite amazing, really. There I was with two other photographers. One was from Life magazine and one was from Paris Match, and we had a carte blanche to do whatever we liked. I was 21. I was still a bit green, really, and in front of my hero. But I mean, I set up the shot that's being used in this in my exhibition, and it's pretty much the only shot I've got of him, because he asked me, where do you want to go to the studio? But I spotted his dining table. I just liked the layout of the Jewish candles in the background, and also they were gladioli in the vase behind. So I just juxtapositioned him sat just to make that composition, which I thought was pretty good, and left it at that. While doing the commercial work, I did a lot of pictures at freelance for Chrysalis Records, so they would send me off to go and photograph, their bands performing live, basically. I mean, I did one or two albums, the Steel Eye Span album cover for them, but Patti Smith came up, and this was up at the no longer there, the Rainbow Theatre in Finsbury Park. Again, in those days it was quite easy to, you'd had to have a sort of, say, a letter of introduction, or they knew that you were working for something that would be of use to the artiste or the record company. I think it's that sort of, it's just the way she stood. It's a sort of, like a figurehead, really. I think that's the thing. Yeah, definitely that, because she had become, bigger than I'd realised. The respect that she had for her, her music, and I mean her poetry, and just her philosophy. Really, that's the thing. This came about through a client I had who was producing a book about the IRA bombing of the cavalry in Hyde Park, and Sefton was the horse that survived. So I was sent along to go and photograph Sefton. This was during the getting ready for the Trooping of the Colour. So I mean, I got there, must have been like 4 or 5 in the morning, while they're all getting the horses ready. And again, it's just a candid shot, which I like to do. I just wandered in amongst all the troopers there and cavalrymen, and this just presented itself. That each trooper had their own way of putting their boots on. Some waddled along like penguins with them already on. Some, like this picture illustrates, he had to go through this rigmarole of standing on the mounting block, as they call it, and have his like his minders there to put the boot on. And so, great picture, which ended up winning the Nikon International Award. It was back in 1986, something, around about then. The first prize for the whole world was, I won a lot of Nikon camera equipment. I mean, I was using Nikon cameras then anyway, but that's where that led me to. When I got to Spain, I was lucky, and I was in touch with Lookout magazine, which was an English language magazine. It's been going some years there. Ronnie Knight came up, so sent off to his house, his villa, pressed the buzzer. First thing I get is Alsatian dogs, and I thought, my God, this is. But along came Ronnie. He said, "Yeah, what do you want?" I said, "Well, I'm here from Lookout magazine to do your pictures of you and your wife." "Oh, right. Well," he said, look, my wife's not here today because she's gone to have her hair done, and also I'd like to see what you're writing about me. So can you come back tomorrow with a copy of the article?" Okay, Ron, I've got no choice on this. So they did some really bad photocopies of this article, which I think were a bit damning in places, but they fuzzied up the parts that they didn't want him to read. So back I went the next day. We sat down. He had a look through. He got to about page 3 and got bored with looking at this stuff. So he said, "Okay, where do you want me? I suppose you want us down by the pool." He says, "That's where the sun. They always like us down there in the news of the world." I said, "No, Ron, actually, I just want to do a straight kind of intimate portrait of you and your wife together," which kind of threw him a bit. But I set up lighting with an umbrella in a little side room. Off we went. It took several pictures, shook hands, and that was that. It made the front cover of the magazine. It was not long after that he was flown back to England under the pretense of going to trial. Well, he did go to trial and got put away for 7 years. This was in Malaga, which I was living near to, and in fact this was a procession. It was called, they released a prisoner every year, a prisoner, no matter what the crime. It dated back to when plague was in Malaga in the early 1700s, and there was nobody to carry the effigies of Christ and the Virgin Mary and so on. The prisoners of the local jail, they offered to do the job, which they did successfully. So since then, hence a prisoner is released. But that one, again, the picture here, I just love the mantillas and just the juxtaposition of the 3 women preparing themselves, because they'll be going on a walk, a procession, which will last probably about 8 hours. And in this case, it was headed by, I think it was a guy who had committed murder that they let free. And I got some photographs of him, but he would be in a black hood. You would no idea who he was. After I left, somebody told me, after all I'd left and the film crews had left the television, he apparently then just threw down his gown, dropped his whatever he had, and buggered off home. Oh. This was taken during Linda McCartney's show at the RPS, and no photographs were allowed. But I thought, well, there must be a way. So I just simply took a camera in a plain bag, not an obvious photographer's bag, and in I went. I saw Paul. I mean, he had his security people around him with Linda. But I just got my camera out. I thought, well, I'm here, I'll do it. Focused, looked at him, he looked at me. I took a couple of pictures, but I thought what was odd, that there he is, he's got it looks like either a half pint of Guinness or a stout ale in his hand. And I thought, well, this is very odd, because private use, generally they just have, it's either orange squash or wine or sparkling water. I don't. He must have brought that himself, But anyway, I wasn't having a problem with the pictures. They weren't there for too long, and then they took the back exit out of the place, so I followed them. And I thought, I'll get some pictures of them. And he looked at me and he said, "Rock on, Tommy, no problem." And he posed up with Linda doing all his signs and so on. So I rattled off a film just of them posing. And waved bye-bye, and that was that. When I saw that Ravi Shankar was doing a concert at Bath University, I thought, well, again, let's go and have a look, try and get some pictures at the rehearsal. I also thought, I'm thinking of Flower Power, that his involvement with the Beatles and the scene at that time. So in the garden that I had at the time, there were some little climbing roses. So I thought, I'll take him a flower. So off we go. And I had a chat with him on stage, and I handed him this flower. And I said, do you mind? No, he was delighted. He had the picture that I made of him. He's there smelling the flower and looking, sort of delighted with it all there. It was as simple as that. When this attack happened on the World Trade Center, like the whole world, we couldn't believe what we're seeing. So I got one of the first planes out via Bristol to New York. And at the time I was there, Wall Street was still closed down. Most of anywhere south of Canal Street was closed to traffic. I'd spotted these two people. They seemed a bit odd. They're carrying a big star-spangled banner flag. I followed them for a while, and then the next thing I know, I see them sit down on these there were two chairs which would have been either for police or whatever security people, in this street, Liberty Street, which is normally you can't move for traffic, as you can imagine, a normal New York busy scene. So I just simply took a few shots they were pretty much unaware of, and left it at that. But I do find it's a surreal shot. He was awarded a medal for his services in the fire brigade in the Second World War. It was at Bath Fire Station. So along I went, there were a few other photographers there, and Harry was there, dressed up in all his medals from his First World War experiences. And at that time, his book about his life in the trenches, that was there, published. Again, he was, for being 110 years old, he was quite a chipper sort of guy. And again, no problem. There's not much I could do except just get some pic. He quite happily posed with the medal that he was awarded, and he just smiled sweetly there. And that was that, a piece of history. I've recently too, I've just self-published a book on Marrakesh. I got fascinated by Morocco, but that has drawn me, so I still feel I will get back there one way or another to carry on there, because that's forever a changing place. I think the 3 years I've been going there, it's becoming more and more, it's getting posher and posher, which is a bit of a shame, but that's the way things go.